I just thought I would, for those that were missing in last night's class, excuse me, I just thought I would do a little bit of a video and a bit of a demonstration for those that missed it, because I'm really sorry, Sarah, I actually didn't record. I'm useless, sorry. But what I thought I would do is send you the PowerPoint and I'll do a bit of a demo, and I just thought this might be better, then you can see what we did. So I've got my paints here. We talked about using paints on a ceramic plate, which I've done here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 colours. So I have got burnt umber, Prussian blue, which is quite dark, so the burnt umber's a brown. It's raw sienna. I thought it was yellow ochre, but it's raw sienna, which is that colour. And one of my favourite colours is alizarin crimson. These seem really big tubes, but I suppose they are. I've had them absolutely ages, and yeah, they last, long lasting. They sell them at the range. I know that much. Right, so there's the colours that I used last night. So that's my palette. I've put that there. My paints away. I'm using this brush, my El Cheapo from Amazon. It's actually called Art Secret and number 2. I don't think that's leather. I think it's all plastic. This is quite I don't know, it's quite soft. And we talked last night about your brushes being like a vessel to carry the water and the pigment. So the bigger the brush, the more water, the more pigment you can carry. Yeah, so this carries an awful lot when it's wet. You can see there, when it's wet, it goes to a really nice point, so you get these really lovely edges, and then when you squish it flat you can get some really good sort of marks. Okay, so that's it. These are the 2 pictures I did last night. This was my first demonstration. What we were talking about was the orientation of the paper. So I've got it in portrait mode, so vertical, and I quite like that it sort of starts off here with hardly any mark making, and then just gradually gets more and more and more. And I love this sort of colour ways, so like quite a muted sort of purple, and then greens. The green is my interpretation of the leaves. I used a photograph of some tulips, and I did a bit of a practice just to warm me up before I went online. This is just a really scratty piece of paper. I actually quite like what I did. I mean, ignore this, that was a previous painting, but I sort of made all these marks and things. And I think the more less tight you can keep your watercolour paintings, the better they can be, or the better they are. And I think what you've got to try and think about is almost like less is more. Yeah, so I quite like the what's it called, composition of this. It's all sort of top heavy, lends itself to the orientation. And this is another second one that I sort of started but I haven't finished. I just think I need to go in here with a bit more dark. I quite like what's going on around here though. These were suggestion of leaves, and I quite like this. If you look on the Facebook page, I've posted most of the students' work, I think, and it looks fab, to be fair. So right, I can vaguely remember what my image looked like, but just let me get it up for you on my iPad. Oops, hang on, wait a minute. Oh, that's no good, that's a receipt. Right, picture, there we go. So these are the shapes I was looking at, and I've took this picture from the back, sort of looking up. Really long stems. I didn't actually put those leaves in. I quite like that straight stem. I quite like the fact that it was all really transparent up here. This is taken in my lounge, so I took my camera angle at this angle, and sort of it was looking up. I think that's about it. So now I've had another look at it, it'll remind me how to do it. Right, here we go. So I close that. So less is more, less is more, less is more. Water, water, water. add some water to the middle of my palette, which I always do this to start off with, and I'm going to mix a sort of a purpley colour, so a touch of alizarin crimson, and this first layer needs to be quite pale. Okay, might just add a bit of that purple from yesterday, so slightly, just make it not as red, and that's as much water as I'm going to use. I'm going to soak up the water in my brush, so this is now loaded with water and paint, and I'm just going to roll on. Okay, that's it. So I'm going to pick up some more paint, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, very loose. Okay, in an ideal world, you sort of let that dry a little bit. Now, whilst you've still got that paint on your brush, I suggest holding your brush at the very end like that, so it's really, really wobbly. Yeah, so it looks like that, and then start at this bottom edge here, and then just trail up really finely, and just allow that to just trail rather than forcing it up. Just allow it to trail ever so slightly. Do it a bit thinner, don't matter if it cockles, makes it more interesting really. And by not applying pressure, so if we to sort of start painting like this, we get too hung up on the shape that we were doing, whereas we just allow it to flow, it makes for a less, not awkward, that's not the word, formal. Yeah, right, so now what I'm going to do is still going to use that area where we've wet and we've added some pigment. I'm going to add a bit more pigment, slightly darker, so more red. Beautiful colour this, and then a little bit more blue. Prussian blue is a really dark blue, so you don't need much of it for it to go blue. So to rectify that, I need to add a little bit more red. So we've got this lovely purple now. So what I'm going to go in now is just at the bottom of these flowers, so maybe overlap a little bit. Yeah, not going to do much more than that. It's caught the blue actually there, if you can see, and maybe I might just trail up just to tie in this darker area here. Yeah, now what I'm going to do is slightly even more darker, and now I'm going to be a little bit more forced. Bit more red, bit more red. I'm going to add a little touch of brown just to, it'll mute it. When I say mute, it'll send it more of a mauvey sort of colour. You can see it changing there, so a bit more red, a bit more brown. You see what it's doing, it's sending it a bit dusky. Yeah, so I'm just going to add a little bit of that there, and all I'm doing is I'm just touching that bottom edge. So bear in mind, this is still very wet. Yeah, but it's sort of almost, it's playing ball a little bit. So I'm just going to add and touch, 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 so that this pigment then runs down there. Okay, so touch, 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 tap, 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 tap. Brilliant, these brushes. Amazon, it wasn't even expensive. Can't think how much it was. So give your brush a really good wash out now, because they're going to change colour. I've got my kitchen roll. So on my palette, I'm going to find a new area, add some blue. It's quite bright. And then I'm going to add a touch of this raw umber. I think I said that's what it was called, can't remember now. So a bit more yellow, 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 and we've got this lovely sort of green. Yeah, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop that in between and sort of splodge it down and move it around, give that so that it's got the impression of a bit of leafage going on. Yeah, don't be scared of thinking, oh my gosh, I've not put it in the right places. I don't think there's any right and wrong really. A bit more blue, a bit more yellow, slightly different colour. Show you. I'm going to go back in up here now. So if you can see how I'm manipulating my brush, I'm just moving it from side to side. So I'm not painting as such, just making gestural marks. Okay, brush my brush again, dry it out a tad, add a bit more yellow. I'm going to go in a slightly darker now. You see what's happening down here, so a bit more of this umber. Not umber, what did I call it? Raw sienna. It's quite a nice colour, but it does need quite a bit of that raw sienna to keep it sort of looking like that. I'm going to add a touch of brown just to dirty it up a bit, make it more muted. Brown's a really good colour for dulling things down a little bit. So I'm just going to add a bit of that in there. I'm not happy with that colour, it's a bit blue. Okay, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of it around here and around here. Might add it there as well. Okay, so I might not do any more to that. Might just leave it, wash my brush out, because we've got to get rid of the green. And now it's just a case of titivating. So going back to my purple, I'm going to add a bit more blue, a bit more red. Use quite a bit of that red now. Still want it to be purpley though, and I want it to be quite purpley. So I'm going in with a bit more pigment, less water, if you notice. Right, it's gone to blue, so send it back to purple. Yeah. Gonna add a touch of brown, just to, there we go. Oh, it's gone grey. Quite like that. Right, so I'm going to use that now. So I've got less water on here, so I'm going to go back in to these areas here. I'm going to emphasise this bottom area, just around there. Not doing very much really, just emphasising away. Okay, so now I've got that dark colour, might just go over that and this. A bit more brown. So I'm going to soak up some water so that's a bit, my brush is a bit drier, a bit more brown, red, blue. Ooh, we've got a really nice grey here. You tend to find that if you mix blue and brown together, you always get this lovely grey colour. So I'm just gonna, so now I'm being a bit more forced, just because I want to push that pigment into the bottom of these flowers. So this is sort of where the flower sort of enfolds here. I'm gonna just add a smattering of details and not so much. Okay, and I might call that a day now. What you could do is you could sort of go around the edges, but I don't think you need to really. And what I would do is assess it. I would leave that now, maybe work on another one, and then maybe possibly come back to it. Right, so there we have 3 flowers all at the top. I might want to fill in some of these gaps. I quite like this coming down here. I think it sort of breaks it up a little bit, but try and keep everything at that top. So keep everything from about halfway up and keep it really minimalist down here. I haven't done a wash on my background. I didn't want to. You can do if you want, but if you're going to do that, colour the background, leave it to completely dry. You might have to stretch it and then paint on the top. I was quite happy just to leave it. So big brushes, lots of water, and I think jobs are good. Thank you. Right, so I will send that PowerPoint over now and see you next week. For those that sort of weren't there last night, we're looking at painting dragonflies and butterflies. So you're going to need images of dragonflies and butterflies, maybe just one of each, and I will send out the information on Sunday evening. Okie doke, folks. Thank you very much.